Have you ever looked at a really powerful person and thought, bro, how did this guy get this far? Because the truth is, in this world, a lot of the time the most useless people sit in the highest positions, while the ones who are actually capable get ignored in some corner. History says the same thing. Look at Nero. He let Rome burn and played the fiddle. Look at Elizabeth Holmes. She built a multi-billion-dollar business on technology that never truly existed. You find people like this in every era. So many of them that it stops feeling like a mistake. It starts to feel like a pattern, like some broken logic that runs the world. And if that pattern is real, does it mean power goes to the least competent? That's where our conversation about Niccolò Machiavelli begins. A man expelled from politics, yet the one who understood the deepest truths behind power. In this Mind Code Zone, we're decoding Machiavelli's thinking about why power and stupidity so often rise together. This isn't just ancient book talk. The same logic runs today, from corporate offices to modern politics. The loudest one, the most confident one, ends up on top. Fix this in your mind. Being smart can actually push you away from power. Understand that paradox, and you'll see the whole game differently. Let's go back. Florence, 16th century. Machiavelli was thrown out of politics. Most people would have broken. He didn't. In that exile, he wrote The Prince, a book people still haven't fully understood. Philosophers like Plato and Aristotle told us what a leader should be. Machiavelli said, that's not how the world works. He explained how power is actually gained, even if the methods are dark. His thinking was built on a brutal truth. People believe what they see. Very few know what's real. And that's where Machiavelli's world starts, where perception is everything and reality trails far behind. In this game, you don't need to be intelligent. You just need to appear intelligent. That's the first clue. Because the truly intelligent often become their own worst enemies. Why? Some traits that make you smart, complex thinking, self-awareness, ethics, turn into liabilities in power systems. Think about it. A genuinely intelligent person enters an organization and tries to understand everything deeply, doubts every step, questions himself. Meanwhile, a loud guy shows up, makes bold promises, radiates confidence, sells the illusion that he has a fix for everything. In the world of power, truth has low currency. Illusion is the strongest weapon. Remember Socrates? He questioned everything, and democracy made him drink poison. His most famous line, I know that I know nothing. Philosophically brilliant, politically suicidal, because the people who rise in the real world are the ones who make bold claims and act like they have all the answers. Now hear a hard mind code truth. A 2017 study found that intelligence only helps you up to a point. After that, it can start holding you back. If your IQ is very high, you overanalyze, dissect everything, think so much that normal people can't follow you. Sometimes you fall behind because you're too smart. Harsh, but true. So the real question, when intelligence becomes a barrier, what traits actually push people to the top? Look around your world. The loudest, flashiest talkers become the most influential, whether or not their ideas are any good. That's not luck. That's a psychological pattern. In 1999, psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger described the Dunning-Kruger effect. People who know little overestimate themselves, while real experts doubt themselves because they understand their own limits. Shakespeare said it long ago. The fool thinks he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool. Machiavelli saw this instantly. Overconfidence beats real skill in the arena of power. A 2020 study showed that people label someone a leader simply because they appear confident, even if they're hollow inside. Think of real cases. George Armstrong Custer. His overconfidence got his troops destroyed, yet he kept getting promoted, kept drawing followers. Or those bold tech founders who sell a vision of the future, pull in hundreds of millions from investors, without depth, without working tech, just a powerful illusion. That's the harsh truth we're unpacking. In this world, power often goes to those who perform everything, not those who understand everything. Adam Neumann of WeWork, weak business model, massive confidence, spoke like a cult leader. People flocked. He raised billions. Why? The world wants confidence, not clarity. And this isn't just America. Look at Masayoshi Son of SoftBank, lost tens of billions, yet investors still trusted him because his personality radiated force. Look at the Russian oligarchs. They rose not through talent but through boldness and connections when the USSR collapsed and everything was privatized. Of course, not every system works that way. Singapore built a structure that rewards competence more than swag. There, showmanship doesn't win, ability does. Here's a mind-blowing bit. A 2012 study from Stanford and the University of Houston found that people who rise to leadership positions aren't necessarily the most capable. They're often the most narcissistic. The ones obsessed with themselves, always spotlighting themselves, often become leaders in unstructured groups, even when their performance is average. Most shocking, their results weren't better, but the group thought they were. Why? The human brain uses shortcuts. If someone sounds confident, we assume they're smart. If someone speaks clearly, we assume they know things. Those shortcuts were useful when life was simple and threats were obvious. In today's complex world, where real experts admit uncertainty, those shortcuts mislead us badly. Another dark truth. Power isn't built only on image. Sometimes incompetence becomes embedded inside power. Machiavelli noticed a dangerous pattern. Weak rulers surround themselves with even weaker people so no one can challenge them. He wrote, "If you want to judge a ruler's intelligence, look at his advisors." That same pattern repeats now. Insecure leaders hire yes men, avoid talent, and fill their teams with people too unsure to threaten them. Organizational psychologist Dr. Tomas Chamorro calls this kind of structure a competence-threatening environment, a system that protects ego and comfort, not skill. And it spreads. One insecure leader becomes a chain reaction of mediocrity, a competence drought from top to bottom. Classic example, Emperor Commodus. He flushed out capable administrators and replaced them with flatterers and entertainers. The imperial court devolved into corruption, and Rome spiraled. Rome wasn't alone. See the central patronage system in Brazil. Leadership gained through connections, not merit. Or Robert Mugabe's Zimbabwe. Skilled administrators purged, loyalists installed. The economy pushed toward collapse. Organizational science has a word for this: homophily. People select people like themselves. Incompetent leaders build whole worlds out of smaller, weaker copies of themselves. No dissent, no challenge, no exposure. Ask yourself, have you ever worked in a place where asking questions was treated as disrespect? Where raising a concern got you labeled not a team player? That's the pattern. Weak leadership spreading through culture until everyone is afraid to speak. So if we see this, why do we still follow leaders who give simple answers to complex problems? Because human psychology. The brain craves certainty. We like the person who says confidently, "I'll fix everything," even if the solution is unrealistic. Real experts do the opposite. They admit complexity, trade-offs, limits. But truth rarely feels satisfying. Machiavelli wrote a brutal line. Most people are content with appearances, as if appearance were reality. That pattern still repeats. In crisis, people don't follow the leader who says, "This will be hard. It'll take time. We need to think." They follow the chest-thumping one who says, "I alone can fix it." Why? Certainty, even fake comforts. Same pattern in climate debates. Environmental scientists speak in probabilities and ranges. Fame-hungry or political actors say, "Just do X, problem solved." Who do crowds trust? The simple, confident one, even if he's empty. Healthcare. Experts explain pros and cons. Politicians say, "We'll give everything, no downsides." Which message wins? The sweet one. Another disturbing reality. When people are given policy questions based on real mathematical data, they often reject the data if it doesn't match their prior beliefs. The most shocking part, the people best at math were sometimes the most biased. They used intelligence not to discover truth, but to defend what they already believed. Psychologists call this cognitive closure. Our discomfort with ambiguity drives us to grab firm, final answers, even wrong ones. When life gets uncertain or stressful, black and white answers feel safe. That's why, in turbulent times, leaders who project absolute certainty, authoritarian personalities, gather followers fast. It's like a failure in the mind's immune system. Complexity rises, but instead of deep thinking, the brain grabs shortcuts. Ask yourself, have you ever believed someone just because they spoke clearly and confidently, even though deep down you sensed reality was more complicated? If yes, that same principle is running silently in you. And even intelligence can't fully protect you from manipulation. Machiavelli said, if a ruler wants to keep power, he must learn not to be good and be ready to use that skill when needed. Moral values can make smart people weak. The unethical have no such limits. They lie, deceive, weaponize fear and hate. They make moves others wouldn't dare. Julius Caesar crossed a line no one was allowed to cross. Cicero, more honest, more intelligent, lost. Those who honor limits often lose to those who don't believe in limits at all. Still true today. Ethical people trail behind liars, manipulators, character assassins. One study found that people who appear charming but score high on psychopathic traits climb faster. Ruthless businesswomen in cutthroat Chinese markets, manipulative middle managers in Nordic firms. It shows up everywhere. Game theorists call it a race to the bottom. Once a dirty tactic works, everyone must use it or fall behind, and the whole system degrades. Is all hope lost? No, not everywhere do stupidity and manipulation get rewarded. Some systems recognize real merit, where a single mistake can cost a life, like surgery. Stupidity doesn't survive. Build a bridge that collapses. You don't get away with it. In those domains, feedback is fast and brutal. Only the competent last. But where feedback is slow, or can be manipulated, foolishness thrives. Think politics. Leaders can blame others for failure. Think corporate giants. Numbers can be stretched to hide reality. Think media. Sensationalism sells more than truth. In those systems, show beats sense. People judge image because it's easier than understanding underlying complexity. Machiavelli spotted this long ago. Most people never understand others deeply. They judge by surfaces. That pattern is most dangerous wherever the work itself is too complex for the average person to evaluate: politics, economics, leadership. So imagine a system that rewards image and performance metrics instead of actual long-term outcomes. What happens? The showmen rise. Those who can impress in the short term, regardless of depth. The 2008 financial crisis is a perfect example. People were rewarded for short-term profits while bearing future risk. Look at your own life. Which environments help you grow real skill, and which ones reward flash and noise? Sometimes the problem isn't the person, it's the system, built to reward the unqualified. But beyond structure, there's psychology. Some leaders actively deploy tactics that make lies feel true and failure look like greatness. Machiavelli exposed these moves centuries ago. Tactic 1. Stoke identity and tribalism. Divide people into us and them. Now, anyone who questions the leader becomes the enemy. Criticize the leader? You're attacking the whole community. Psychologists call this identity fusion, when a follower fuses their identity so deeply to a leader that any criticism feels personal. You've heard of cult leaders, Jim Jones, authoritarian regimes. It's the same playbook. Former Malaysian PM Najib Razak leaned on ethnic divides to hold position after corruption scandals. Under Bolsonaro in Brazil, polarization intensified so much that truth itself got filtered through tribal loyalties. Tactic 2. Cognitive overload. Some leaders flood the space with daily controversies, new drama, new outrage, until you're emotionally exhausted and mentally foggy. When the public is constantly reacting, it stops thinking. That's when unqualified people climb. Tactic 3. Doublethink, George Orwell's term. Make people hold two contradictory beliefs at once. Rewrite history whenever needed. Keep shifting the story until the line between truth and falsehood blurs. Machiavelli saw it coming. The crowd is always swayed by appearances, and most people are the crowd. Not an insult, just a fact about the human brain. It evolved for a simpler world, not this hyper-manipulated information environment. Tactic 4. Economic insecurity. When people are anxious about money or the future is hazy, anyone offering a simple fix suddenly. Now ask yourself, in your life, which inputs actually build competence, and which are just outrage bait? Because that's exactly where manipulation enters. So how to get out? In Mind Code, we say clarity begins with awareness. If you can spot these patterns early, you don't fall into them. 3 core practices help. Intellectual humility. Admit you don't know everything. Research shows truly humble thinkers judge ideas by evidence, not by the speaker's confidence. That mindset becomes a mental immune system against manipulation. Media literacy. Rise above headlines and emotional framing. Ask, what's actually important? What signal? What's distraction? Depth over dazzle. Don't jump at everything shiny. Pause. Check the source. Is it credible, or just engineered to pull a crowd? Warren Buffett said the truly successful learn to say no. And that applies to information too. Smart people don't consume everything. They filter, focus, and go deep where it matters. Another habit, self-questioning. Step out of the daily rush and look inward. Why do I think what I think? The Stoics advise daily reflection, so you don't get carried away by anger, greed, or fear. Francis Bacon said wise people don't wait for opportunity, they shape it. Reflection is how you reshape yourself, instead of letting the world shape you blindly. Now zoom out. How do we build societies where people can't be fooled so easily? 3 structural safeguards. Accountability. No one, no matter how high, should be beyond scrutiny. Companies should have independent oversight. Think of the Boeing case. Engineers warned early. Profit motives buried the warnings. Disaster followed. Cognitive diversity. Decisions made by people who think differently catch more errors. Homogeneous teams miss their own blind spots. Transparency. Make it hard to hide behind jargon and complexity. Open records laws. Disclosure of conflicts in medicine. Public processes. Strip away the shadows where fraud hides behind expertise theater. Tying all of this together is real education. Not just schooling, not just degrees. We need critical thinking and ethics literacy. Athens built academies. Florence cultivated thinkers. Teaching facts isn't enough. The civilizations that become great are the ones that cultivate understanding.